Some rules Japan lives by are so logical and considerate that the moment you learn about them, you immediately wonder why the rest of the world hasn't adopted them yet. No tipping culture because good service is simply expected rather than incentivized. A culture so committed to cleanliness that people carry their rubbish with them for hours rather than leave it somewhere it doesn't belong. And restaurants legally required to serve food that looks almost identical to the photo on the menu. So what you order is exactly what you get. Japan doesn't just have better rules, it has a culture that follows them without enforcement, without signage, and without anyone needing to be told twice. Today, we're counting down 14 Japanese rules that just make sense. Watch until the end because number 14, sushi chefs who spend an entire decade training before they are permitted to touch the fish, shows how Japan's standard of mastery makes everything it produces better than the rest of the world's version. Number 1, no tipping because good service is the standard. In Japan, tipping is not just unnecessary, it is considered rude. Offering extra money for good service implies the person needed a financial incentive to do their job properly, which in Japanese service culture is an insult rather than a compliment. Good service in Japan is not a performance scaled to the perceived tip at the end of the meal. It is the baseline. Every customer receives the same attention regardless of how much they are spending or how generous they appear. The waiter who refills your water without being asked, the cashier who bags your items with precision and speed, the hotel staff member who anticipates what you need before you ask. None of them are doing it for a tip. They're doing it because that is the standard the job requires. Japan built a service culture around expectation rather than incentive, and the quality of service it produces makes every tipping culture in the world look like it is compensating for something. Number 2, carrying rubbish until a bin is found. Japan has almost no public bins. Walk through central Tokyo, Osaka, or Kyoto, and you will find immaculate streets and spotless train stations maintained almost entirely by a cultural norm that treats dropping litter as a personal failure rather than an inconvenience someone else will handle. When Japanese people generate rubbish in public, they put it in their bag or pocket and carry it until they reach a bin. The weight is irrelevant. The rubbish travels with the person who created it. The streets are clean not because of frequent cleaning crews or an abundance of bins, but because the behavior that would make them dirty is socially unacceptable at a level that requires no enforcement. Japan removed the infrastructure and the cleanliness remained because the cultural expectation was strong enough to maintain it without anything else supporting it. Number 3, bowing instead of handshakes is standard. Bowing is Japan's universal greeting, and it communicates everything a handshake does without requiring any physical contact between the two people exchanging it. The depth of the bow communicates the level of respect being expressed. A shallow nod is casual. A deeper bow is formal. A very deep bow communicates apology or deep gratitude. The entire spectrum of social acknowledgement is covered through a single gesture whose meaning changes with its angle. It works in every social context, from meeting a stranger to thanking a colleague to acknowledging a customer walking through the door. It works across age differences, professional hierarchies, and first meetings where the appropriate level of formality is uncertain. It is faster, cleaner, and immediately readable. Japan settled on a greeting system that requires nothing from either party except mutual acknowledgement, and built a culture where that gesture carries more genuine warmth than most handshakes ever manage. If you're enjoying this so far, go ahead and tap like. It tells YouTube you want more of Japan's clever, everyday innovations. And if you love discovering things you didn't even know existed, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this list. Trust me, the next ones are even cooler. Number 4, food must match the photo on the menu. In Japan, the photograph on a menu or food package is a legal representation of what you will actually receive. The gap between the image and the plate that the rest of the world treats as an accepted part of food marketing is a consumer protection issue in Japan, rather than a creative license. Japanese standards require that food served in restaurants and sold in packaging look substantially similar to the photograph used to advertise it. Ingredients are in position, portions reflect the image. The product is assembled with the photograph in mind. You point at the picture, you receive what you pointed at. The decision you made when you ordered is honored by what arrives on the tray. It is one of the most straightforward consumer protection standards imaginable. Show people what they are going to receive before they pay for it and then deliver it. Japan made it a legal requirement, and the dining experience improved immediately. Number 5. Lost property returned at near 100%. Japan's lost property return rate is so high that visitors from other countries consistently describe it as impossible until they experience it. Wallets returned with cash intact. Phones handed in within minutes of being left on a train. Bags recovered from busy stations with every item inside. The system works because finding something and keeping it is treated as a moral failure rather than good fortune. Every transit operator and public building maintains a lost property office with a registration system that matches found items to reported losses. No reward system, no financial motivation, no enforcement mechanism. Japan created a society where the honest thing is also the automatic thing, and the lost property return rate is the measurable outcome of that cultural standard. The person who finds a wallet on a Tokyo street and hands it in is not doing something exceptional. They are doing what is expected. In Japan, that expectation is enough. Number 6. Money placed on a tray, not into a hand. Every cash transaction in Japan involves a small tray at the counter, specifically for the exchange of money. You place your notes and coins on the tray, the cashier takes them, counts them, and returns your change to the same tray. You collect it. Neither party touches the other's hand at any point. The tray makes the transaction more accurate. Money placed flat on a surface is easier to count and verify than money exchanged between moving hands under time pressure. It removes fumbling, accidental contact, and the hygiene implications of passing currency directly between people dozens of times a day. It is a small wooden or plastic rectangle that costs almost nothing to produce. Japan put one on every retail counter in the country and made paying for things a cleaner, calmer, and more precise experience as a result. Something that simple applied that consistently produces a measurable improvement to every cash transaction that happens in the country every single day. Number 7. Smoking restricted to designated zones only. Japan didn't ban smoking, it contained it. And the outcome of that approach is a country where smokers can smoke and non-smokers move through cities without encountering cigarette smoke in the street. Smoking in Japan is restricted to clearly designated outdoor zones in most urban districts, with strict indoor bans in restaurants, transit facilities, and public buildings. Outside the designated zones, street smoking is prohibited, and the restriction is observed without enforcement officers needing to be present. The designated zones are positioned away from pedestrian traffic, marked clearly, and equipped with ashtrays. Smokers use them. Non-smokers use the rest of the city. Neither group has to compromise. They simply occupy different parts of the same space. Japan found the version of tobacco regulation that acknowledges both sides of the debate and built physical infrastructure that keeps them separated. It is not a moral position, it is a practical one, and it works. Number 8. Complete silence on public transit without enforcement. A Tokyo commuter train carrying thousands of people during the morning rush hour is quieter than most libraries. No phone calls, no audible music, conversations conducted at a volume that doesn't carry beyond the immediate party, phones on silent before boarding. None of this is enforced. There are announcements requesting it, but no staff monitoring compliance and no penalty for violation. The silence is maintained entirely by a shared social understanding that the commute is a shared space and the comfort of the people around you is your responsibility to consider. The practical outcome is that a long rail journey in Japan is a genuinely restful experience. You board, you sit, and the carriage around you is quiet enough to sleep, read, or simply think, without managing the noise of other people as a constant background task. Japan created a transit environment that treats silence as a collective responsibility, and the result is millions of daily commutes that are measurably better than they would be anywhere else. Number 9. Supermarkets discount perishables by the hour. Japanese supermarkets apply time-based discounts to perishable food products in the hours before closing, reducing prices progressively as the end of the trading day approaches until everything is sold before the store closes. Staff move through the aisles with fluorescent discount stickers, marking items down at set intervals throughout the final hours. Customers who know the system time their visits accordingly. Products that would otherwise be discarded at the end of the day are purchased and eaten instead. The daily food waste produced by a supermarket operating this system is close to zero. Nothing edible leaves the building in a bin bag when a lower price tag would have put it in someone's shopping basket instead. It treats food waste as a commercial failure rather than an operational inevitability. The food was already there, the customer was already there. A lower price is the only variable required to connect them. Japan made adjusting that price a standard daily practice, and food waste disappeared as a result. Number 10. Priority seating strictly respected by everyone. Priority seating on Japanese trains is treated as genuinely reserved rather than preferentially available. When an elderly passenger, a pregnant woman, or someone with a visible disability boards a carriage, the priority seat is vacated without hesitation, without waiting to be asked, and without the performance of deliberate ignorance that priority seating produces in most other transit systems. The seats are clearly marked in a different color. The social expectation around them is equally clear. Sitting in one when a priority passenger is standing nearby is a social failure that no Japanese commuter wants to be responsible for. The system works because the expectation is genuine rather than advisory. Priority seating in Japan means the seat belongs to the person who needs it most. It does not mean you can sit there until someone asks you to move. Japan made a simple infrastructure decision and backed it with a cultural standard strong enough to make it function exactly as intended every single time. Number 11. Escalator etiquette keeps one side clear. On every escalator in Japan, one side is kept clear for people who want to walk. The other side is for standing. The division is observed universally, maintained entirely through social awareness, and produces escalator traffic flow so efficient that the same infrastructure moves significantly more people per minute than escalators elsewhere where both sides are occupied by standing passengers. No signs instruct this. No announcements remind people. No staff monitor compliance. The etiquette is simply known and followed because it is obviously the more considerate and efficient way to use a shared moving staircase. The person who wants to stand does so on one side without blocking anyone. The person who needs to move quickly walks up the other side without asking anyone to shift. Both needs are met simultaneously by the same piece of infrastructure. Japan found the obvious way to share an escalator and made it a cultural standard. It requires nothing from anyone except the awareness that other people are also using the same machine. Number 12. Outdoor shoes removed at every home entrance. Every Japanese home has an entryway called a genkan where outdoor shoes are removed before stepping inside. The transition from outside to inside is a physical and cultural boundary that keeps everything that accumulated on your shoes during the day permanently outside the living space. The floor level of the genkan is lower than the interior floor, making the boundary between outdoor and indoor environments architecturally explicit. You step down to remove your shoes, step up into the home, and the two environments never mix. The living space stays genuinely clean, not surface clean, clean in the way that a space only achieves when the source of most household dirt is removed at the entrance, before it can travel further in. It is a practice so logical that the countries which don't follow it seem, once you consider it properly, to be making an active choice to track the street into the rooms where they eat, sleep, and spend their lives. Number 13. Students clean their own classrooms daily. Every Japanese school builds a daily cleaning period into the timetable where students are responsible for sweeping, mopping, and maintaining their own classrooms, corridors, and communal spaces without any janitorial staff involvement. The students clean the spaces they use, they sweep the floors they walk on, wipe the surfaces they work at, and maintain the toilets they use throughout the day. The task is rotated so every student is responsible for every area of the school over the course of the year. The effect on how students treat the space is direct and measurable. You do not leave a mess in a room you are responsible for cleaning. You do not damage a surface you will be the one repairing. Ownership of the environment changes the relationship with it entirely. Japan made cleaning a lesson rather than a service, and produced students who treat shared spaces with the respect of someone who knows they will be the one maintaining them. Number 14. Sushi chefs train a decade before touching fish. Becoming a sushi chef in Japan is not a matter of completing a culinary course and starting service. It is a years-long apprenticeship where the progression from task to task is earned through demonstrated mastery of each preceding stage before the next one is permitted. A new apprentice spends years learning to cook rice before touching fish. The rice must be perfect. The temperature, the seasoning ratio, the texture of each portion. Only once the rice meets the standard does the apprentice advance. The fish comes later, the full craft comes later still. The system produces a standard of sushi that reflects a decade of dedicated preparation before a single piece is served to a paying customer. The patience required is extreme. The output it produces is the reason Japanese sushi is considered the global benchmark for the craft. Japan decided that mastery is not a starting point, it is the destination, and it built a training culture that refuses to shortcut the journey required to reach it. If you want to see more amazing things Japan is doing better than the rest of the world, then like and subscribe, and make sure to watch the video on your end screen. It's packed with even more crazy things.